we're on, and we currently have 19 minutes and 51 seconds remaining.
Right.
Welcome to this week's episode of Treadmill Talks. We're back on the YouTube for this week's episode. We've had some messages in relation to Love Island and the effect that it has on people's mental health in relation to body confidence, steroid use, and the way it's making people feel. So have you been watching it?
I've not seen any of the new winter series. No, I've seen it in the past quite a bit. Not seen any of the new series. Are you watching the new one?
Oh, I'm guilty. I've been watching it. I've actually quite enjoyed it. Well, it's not as good as most series. I think the series is a little bit rubbish. Really, they're all a bit boring, and they're all a bit different as well in terms of the stereotypical year on year when it's been your overly muscly blokes and your very, very lean women. They've got some more curvy, should we say curvy women in there this year.
Is there? Okay.
Yeah, for sure. And the guys, I mean, I can't say anything. They are certainly ripped, they are shredded, and some of them got quite a lot of mass on them. But in comparison to some other years, they're not as bulky, should we say. They're not.
Yeah, I
There's
think
definitely a shift in the mentality, I think, from like the producer's angle, as opposed to.
well, they're always going to be looking for quite aesthetic, inverted commas, people.
Yeah.
I think there's a real, almost like a body beautiful feel to the show, and I think that they've obviously been selected because of either they're passionate gym goers or they're models or they've made money off their appearance in the past or that kind of thing. So I think, yeah, I don't think it's necessarily wearing thin for people to constantly see people in that mode, but it's highlighted a lot of press this time round.
I think we know as well, we found out today, didn't we, that it's not normal people either. It's so you've been selected or through talent agencies and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's definitely interesting that if this is the way that it's going and they're picking people, as opposed to your average Joe Blogs can apply for that show, these are the people that they're coming out with. Do you know what I mean? So if there are 1,000 people that apply, they are actually selecting these types of people. What is it? What are they looking for? What is the driving force? Is it anything to do with the physical attributes? Do they care that they're a police officer or a scaffolder? And that's relevant because if you watch the show, you'll understand that. But
there's a police officer on the scaffold.
There is.
Oh, okay.
But,
what's the reference there?
You just, I think, is that relevant when you're doing the application form, or are they simply going to your rig and going hot or not?
I think they almost certainly do. I think, there's the conversation that's coming out of it is where you are seeing people who are aesthetically pleasing. It's skewing the reality of maybe people who are a little bit overweight or a little bit high body fat, and it's, I guess the conversation is that it's making them maybe feel a little bit inferior. It's advertising the fact that there's people who are, I wouldn't say necessarily better than anyone else for being in that shape, but it's making people feel like there's people like that walking around everywhere, which simply isn't the case. These are a select few people who have obviously worked quite hard in the gym. Some of them may or may not be taking body enhancing supplements. That's
I don't know if there are this year. I'd be interested in what people think, but I don't think this year that there are anyone taking something. Maybe one or two, maybe I'm naive, but I don't think
for the pictures I've seen, it certainly doesn't seem like there's anyone's in any kind of nick that you can get in normally.
And that's the other thing, if they are using gear or steroids, things like that, then it's interesting to see that, because actually the nick that they are in, like you say, you could achieve that through real hard work.
100%.
And I appreciate that sort of stuff is going to accelerate, and if you're going on a show like that, that may, not that it's we're endorsing it, but that may be the reason as to why they're doing it, to enhance or accelerate that process. But what they've currently got, you can easily achieve. You know what I'm saying? So you can quite easily get it, but it just takes a lot of work.
Yeah, I don't see there's anyone in there in unachievable condition where they're definitely using, like performance enhancing drugs, as kind of coarse as that sounds. I think that it's probably, if you knew you were going on a show like that, it would be one hell of leverage to think half the country are going to see me with my shirt
millions
off.
Of people.
Yeah, millions of people are going to see me in swimming shorts in 8, 12, 24 weeks time. I have much notice that
yeah, for like, how long's the show on for? Like a month or something, isn't it?
No, a bit longer than that, I think. That would then...
So they're on there for some time as well. So you need to be in good shape. And that's the interesting thing as well, maintain it when they're on the show as well.
Yeah, I mean, they've got, from the episodes I've watched in the past, they've got a gym in there, they've got
looks basic,
pull-up bars and things like that, where you could at least do something to keep you ticking. You're sitting around in the sun all day, not particularly stressed.
If you're motivated to find love as well, you ain't going to be
absolutely
smashing the food, are you? You're going to be keeping that rig nice and tight.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. If there's some good-looking members of the opposite sex in there, that'll probably keep you a little bit of a spring in your step to want to get a bit of a train on. So, yeah, but I think on the other hand, I think people being encouraged to go to the gym because it is incredibly fashionable to look that way is a positive. So regardless of if anyone's offended that they're all in good shape, and where's the ugly fat bloke in there, and why is it not more of a
representative?
Yeah, that's more of a accurate representation of the average male and female form. More should be, well, if it's incredibly fashionable to look that way, then if that gets people thinking about what they're eating and what they're moving, the naughty stuff, the steroid stuff aside, then that's got to be a good thing, right? If people are getting into resistance training, they're getting into weight training programs, they think they're taking their nutrition more seriously because they aspire to be like the people that they see on there, and they want to be in a physique that's similar to that, then that has to be a good thing. Because you've got to have more respect for people that are on the show like that than sedentary people, regardless of whether they are using.
No, I agree.
drugs.
And I think there is, like you say, there's an element of actually, should we be offended by it, or should we aspire to be like that? I mean, ultimately, and I've always preach this, I think we should all aspire to be happy. That's the bottom line. If you're happy, first and foremost, but then also healthy as well, I do think that's important. But if you don't think you would be any happier from your current weight to getting a six-pack, let's say you're at a healthy, maintainable weight now, between there and getting a six-pack, so you look like someone off of Love Island, if you're not going to improve your happiness, don't do it. You can strive at maybe as a target, but don't put pressure on yourself to get there just because that is the societal norm that has been being pushed out on social media and on television. That's not...
Yeah, you definitely don't want to think that there's any kind of standard that you're trying to keep up to and you're in any way inferior if you don't meet that standard. I think the other conversation which we've mentioned in previous podcasts is the gym intimidation feel. I know I did a video about this as well. There's a concept known as the apex fallacy, where it's the human tendency to assume that the people at the top, there's more people there than there actually is. So for example, you watch a show like Love Island and you think, if I join my local council gym, they're all going to look like that. And me, who's 10% body fat, higher than I should be, 3 stone overweight, God, what's that? That's not going to be good, is it? They're all going to, the music's going to stop and they're going to all turn around and look at me as soon as I walk. And it's just not the case. No. You look at that show and they are...
So 0.5%.
Probably 0.1% of the population are in that shape, and then they say, but the fact that you see them on the box every night means that it skews your reality, almost works against you. So you've got to be a bit self-aware to think, if you're okay with that and you can see it for what it is and maybe see it as aspirational and it pushes you forward, that's good, but don't let yourself retreat within yourself and not take action that you would have done because you're in somehow like a comparison frame and a comparison mindset of like you versus them.
I'd be interested to see whether or not, slightly controversial, do you think people would still watch the show if it was more a representation of society?
I think
if you had someone that was your BMI scale, if you like, morbidly obese, down to underweight.
I think if the guys had a bit about them and had like a really good sense of humour and had like exceptional banter, and
But you're not going to know that on the first.
Exactly.
And this is the thing.
They'd have to do
the
quite
whole show is predicated around the fact that they just choose people off of looks initially.
Exactly.
Not. I appreciate if you watch the show, you'll know that it's made of a series of people. Initially, you choose just off of looks, then you get to know those people. You end up in relationships, etc. The very first episode, when they stand there, it's almost belittling.
It's like a meat market, isn't it?
It's like they stand the women there. A guy comes prancing out in swimwear and goes, "That one, please." Like they just hang her up, wrap her in a bit of cling film, and chuck him off.
I mean,
the guy stands with his hand round his waist.
Most of the sort of the male to female attraction is going to be based on the physical to start with. There's no getting away from that, and they kind of know that. I don't think anywhere near as many people would watch the show if that was the case, unless they set it up differently, where it was like, I don't know, they were playing maybe silly personality match games, or they were all stand-up comics with, you know, good quick wit and intelligence or something like that, and you could maybe buy into the fun there.
Yeah.
I think the producers know exactly what they're doing.
Oh, it makes good TV, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We're all turned on by a good-looking girl or a good-looking guy.
Yeah,
and so it makes you want to watch more.
And people want to buy the bottles that they have with the name on them and that kind of thing, because it's
a icon image, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've got that bottle, you're part of that sort of that community. Like, and actually, you wouldn't, or a lot of people necessarily wouldn't give those people on television now the time of day outside of Love Island. If they didn't know they were on Love Island, didn't know they had 450,000 followers, they wouldn't give them the time of day. Yet, because they're on Love Island, we watch, we're fixated. Because they're pushed for our TV as these are famous people, these are celebrities, you will watch them. And because we're watching them, we develop that mindset, and then everyone else, then it's like a breeding mindset.
Yeah, they get almost like a level of authority, which is why they get the sponsorship deals and things after, and they get some of the influencer-like statuses, which we spoke about the other week, which can get abused by the fact that they then become prone to wanting to maybe sell an instantly gratifying weight loss supplement or something like that, which they've not used, or some sort of tea detox or something, because they have got that much influence on the marketplace.
They're used as marketers, aren't they?
Yeah, and they can use that like I say, authority and presence that they've got, to kind of, which they are really deep down selling themselves out if they know that they've had to take a certain journey to get where they're at, and then they're going to sell out for a quick buck. But that's been a previous podcast and another I think they could probably do a bit more than what they do now. Like they could maybe either, I don't know, they could maybe have like some sort of sponsorship, nutritional sponsorship, dovetailing with it or something like that. Or they could use it as a nation piece, because they've got a lot of youngsters watching it, and they could almost actually influence. Like if they are working out in the gym or something like that, they could show maybe some of the nuts and bolts behind what they're doing that would then be
to get there.
That would then be beneficial for people to learn from.
Like there's no issue branding like the Love Island body, if you like, but at least like put some content around actually how you get that, and is it actually attainable for everybody? And if it's not, then just be real about it. Say, actually guys, I used a shit ton of steroids to get this, and
either that or break it down and have conversation about calories and carbs in the show or as part of it, and then let that kind of ruminate in people to learn from, so that they get something out of it, rather than everyone's just either in fear of the physiques but buying the bottles because of the celebrity status, but then also at the same time their self-esteem's impacted because they don't think they look like that, and they're intimidated to take action themselves because they don't, and there's this kind of this rat race of just like this of stress kind of going, where it's almost more negative when it could be more positive. Because
I love the fact that it's on in the winter now as well. Like they've done a winter Love Island, because that in line with it's just come out at the beginning of January. If you are looking at it from a positive angle, then actually you've just got a shitload of motivation. Like the minute you flick on the TV, wherever you look, there's Love Island in the news, on the social medias, on the telly, like everywhere you look, there's something to do with Love Island. And so actually, if you are motivated in that way, then it's a good thing.
It is a good thing.
In the new year, that you can have a little break when you're in your routine, and then as you start to dip again, bang, it's going to hit you in the summer again as well.
And I think it's a very personal thing. I think some people are going to maybe, let's say, retreat into themselves, be intimidated and think that's not for me, they should ban the show. Some other people are going to be like, you know,
Pick yourself up,
I want to get in shape like that.
It's a good reminder.
Yeah, like, I was always motivated by the whole "you can do it too" thing. You know, like look at pictures. Of, extreme example, but you know, look at pictures of like Arnold Schwarzenegger and that kind of thing, and think, well, it's just flesh and bone. No one's cut from a different cloth. I want to look like that. You know, and then kind of try and work hard to progress, rather than almost use it as an excuse to procrastinate and be like, oh, well, that's just them. That's they're a different breed. Those people, that's not me. So you definitely want to be the former with that. You want to, you know, kind of be like, I could be, you know, like these people just look relatively normal. You know, they're a similar age to me or whatever. There's no reason why I can't. You definitely want to flip it for the positive rather than seeing it as a stress. I can see in the current age of mental health how it could potentially fuel depression. And anything that raises awareness around that is a positive.
They've had some history with that as well, haven't they? We won't necessarily go into that now, but in terms of depression, not necessarily, I don't know if it was, I'm not clued up on it, but from the show and things like that, and the pressures afterwards. And interestingly as well, just slightly side noting, you tend to find as well, certainly last year, the cast, crew, whatever you want to call them, the contestants, they all left the show and a few of them put on a considerable amount of weight. And completely lost their shape. I know that, is it Jack? I can't remember his name now. Jack and Alex, it was. They put on a lot of weight. They got a good nick on the show and then they left the show and they ballooned.
I mean, I don't know the names, but I could imagine if you're not in the limelight so religiously and you get a few quid in your back burner, it soon becomes easy to just kind of enjoy the party lifestyle. And if you're not, if you weren't particularly a fitness enthusiast from the off, and it was more of something you were doing to be in shape for the show versus like an absolute passion for the fitness game, I could see how you would come out of that quite quickly when there wasn't the leverage there. So if you've been watching the show, let us know what you think about it. This week I'm going to say, for the question of the week, we are going to ask you guys, let's keep it simple. Do you think it's a good idea to have good-looking people or very low body fat, conventionally aesthetic people, I should say, on our TV screens? Is that a good thing or not?
Yeah, I like it. That's good. Okay, guys, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next week for a new episode on YouTube. And if you're listening on Spotify as well, thank you very much. Don't forget to go to the YouTube and watch the show there as well. We've got some special guests coming up in the next couple of weeks, and we will be releasing episodes every Friday.
See you soon.